Peace and blessings. Today we're going to be talking about the cow in Scripture. The cow is mentioned all over the spiritual world, from Egypt and hieroglyphics to India to places that I have never even heard of, to the Bible, Quran, Torah. The cow is considered a very important animal in Scripture. It has a lot of different contexts, so there's no one definition. However, there is a root context that runs through there's a root definition that runs through the various contexts that may be found in Scripture. And that is to cut open, to split open. And when you're thinking about splitting open a cow or cutting open a cow, then your mind probably automatically goes to slaughter, right? And in the process of slaughtering, you have the distribution of parts. So that idea is a running theme in the different various contexts of the cow in Scripture. So thinking of the idea of distribution, when we're talking about cutting pieces from a whole, that concept, there's someone that knows how that cow was raised. They know what that cow ate. They know the temperament of that cow. They know whether that was a sickly cow, an angry cow, or what kind of mad cow. They know all about that cow before it was distributed. You may have heard the word halal. You may have heard the word kosher, but some people get the best parts, the prime rib out of life. They get the delicious, succulent parts that are heavenly and divine. And some people get the worst parts, the rooter to the tutor, as they say, the chitlings of life. But yeah, so these parts are distributed in various ways, but some of these ways are unfit. Okay, so in this, there's a Quranic verse that talks about Moses going to a group of people, and he says, "You've got to slaughter this cow." They're like, "We don't know what cow you're talking about. All cows look alike." So then he goes on to discuss the various parts of this cow so that they can understand. So one thing I want to try to convey, mind you, this information is not easy to try to convey, so I'm going to try my best, is this idea of parts, right? So let's take the visual of a cow. He has arms, legs, a head. He has all these various parts that make up the whole. All right. So if you just had one piece of that cow, you would only be familiar with that one piece, right? But God, who created the cow, knows how all those parts work together. So there are things in society like that where someone knows how all these parts fit together and what they equal. But those of us who may have parts or have these parts, we may not know. We may only know of the part that we were given or that we were able to experience. So there's an idea of a mastermind in society, right? Clearly, Moses is going to this group of people to say, look, this particular cow here, this whole thing, whether it's an organization, whether it's a family, whether it's technology, it could be several different things, the whole of it. These parts are unfit for distribution to society. And it kind of made me think, a lot of times we don't know what's going on. We're experiencing things, we're using things, we're buying things, we claim that we believe things, etc. But it's part of a greater plan. So let's start. So Moses goes on to say that this is a cow neither too old, neither virgin, but median between. So this concept of not being too old, or even virgin, not being too old or being virgin. We're talking about the lack of readiness. Okay, so he's saying that this is not something in society that lacks preparedness or lacks readiness because it's lived out its life. It's began to have habits that keep it from being able to change or being able to establish and develop any further. He's saying that not that. Whatever that may be, not that. All right. And you might look at religious organizations. You could say Let's use that as an example. Religious organizations. A lot of times they're reading scripture as if it's 1400 years ago, is unable to apply it to today, unable to use it to be a mover and a shaker. But they're not really hurting nobody. They're doing their thing. Leave them alone. We're not talking about that cow. Then they go on to say, show us her color. He said, it's a yellow cow, bright in color, pleasing to the observer. The first image, there are going to be images that you're going to get when you're reading scripture. There should be an image, a real life image of something, because scripture is real. So the first image I got was gold, something shiny, something yellow, something shiny, the eye of the beholder, something sparkling. Jewelry, for some reason, entered my mind. And we've heard references like the golden calf, right, or the golden cow in various scripture. But this is something that's pleasing to the eye of the beholder. So it's prepared. That was the first part. It's ready. It's the mover and shaker. It's pleasing to the eyes of the beholder. So what in society do we have like that? We have technologies right now that are changing the whole face of the planet and the way that we live. We have celebrities. These are people that have worked their tails off to become prepared. And they are also movers and shakers in society, pleasing to the eye of the beholder. So Moses is pointing to this particular type. We have two characteristics so far. One thing I thought about is these people that are preparing themselves to be great, whether it's skill, talent, intellect. These are the people that he's talking about. These people that have prepared themselves to be great. There are also people that look for these people, right? And that's why people like your Michael Jordans, your Michael Jacksons, your LeBron James, there are many in various industries that, someone calls you up, offers you millions of dollars because they recognize your preparedness. And that's how you end up on top. But these people end up shaping our society. So that takes us to our next characteristic. He says, it is a cow neither trained to plow the earth nor to irrigate the field, one free from fault with no spot on her. So not trained to plow the earth. A cow in its natural state is trained to plow the earth. That's what he does. You see him moving about in the pasture, eating all the grass. Basically, that's plowing the grass down. And I kind of got the picture of landscaping, right? So we're talking about people that are prepared in their talent and are not trained to landscape, society, make sure things aren't growing out of control, not trained to push humanity forward by maintaining society, nor to irrigate the field, one free from fault, no spot on her. So irrigating the field, you're talking about water. You're talking about inspiration. These people are not allowed to be inspired to do good works toward humanity. Instead, their preparedness, their great skills and talents and intellects are being used for something else. One thing that I thought about while studying this was when I was a kid, we were allowed to be outside. And in doing so, we were poor. I'm the youngest of 12. I didn't know I was poor at the time, but we used to play with the grass. We would make mud pies. We would find sticks outside and build things. We would explore. I know that I've been blessed. Okay. I know my family's been blessed, but I can't tell you the degree of inspiration that I received just from being free to explore nature at that time. Today, you got kids that they're not free to explore nature. They're on their phone, they're on their laptops or whatever they're doing, and they're constantly being told what their inspiration should be. And that's problematic. How are you going to end up with a fresh new intellects, fresh new ideas? How are you going to end up with that if people are not allowed to be free? And you've heard this concept of free range farm animals, right? So that comes up in my mind too. What's the difference? Not just from the physical aspect, But when you start talking about higher meanings, being free to explore. So one thing is, as consumers, we're not cows. We're still human beings. We have cow-like tendencies, meaning eating what's beneath our feet and not doing much more than that, like the cow does, right? You just living off of what you've been told, right? But not going any further than that in your life. And there's this feeling nobody really talks about. There's a feeling of dissatisfaction that human beings have. Some people commit suicide. Some people use vices to fill in that feeling of dissatisfaction. But it has a lot to do with your innate desire to want to explore, want to expand, want to create. And if you're cutting yourself off from that because you're only consuming what's right beneath your feet within the small pasture you've been given, then yeah, you're going to feel depressed. You're going to have some psychological problems. I don't know if anyone's ever thought of it that way, but it's true. I believe it to be true. So free from fault with no spot on her, meaning free to just exist in society as if there's nothing wrong with it. All right. And so when you look at generations, when a child is introduced to something that was unfit for distribution in the first place, they don't have any idea or concept of the alternative. And religion, the church, the masjid, the mosque, whatever you want to call it, used to be the place to go to get an alternative perspective of what this world is supposed to be. Right? So generation after generation, if you don't make these corrections, if you don't have videos like these or people teaching that there is a whole other perspective based on nature, based on God, based on reality, that's not driven by some form of greed or man's desires, man's emotions, then people will forget, and things will live in society with no type of with no type of legal protection. You just think it's okay, and you destroy yourself because you don't know. And that's one of the problems with something being free from fault that is unfit for distribution in society. We're going to wrap up for today. Thank you so much for listening. Our next talk is going to be on the calf. The calf and the cow are different, so you're going to want to hear that. So please subscribe to my channel and stay tuned. I'm working on my website right now. I'm going to be doing some other types of conversations when it comes to the scripture and society and where we see it every day. So stay tuned for that as well. Peace and blessings.